Hey guys, so I'm here with En Goodz, and we're doing this video to show you guys what is Canada, US, and how is this all tied into one one source, one source of main power. So yeah, En Goodz, how's it going?
Hey man, thanks for having me on.
Cool.
Really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm 23 years old from Ontario, Canada, Greater Toronto area. And my name's Nicholas, but my alias is En Goodz. And yeah, so we were
Yeah,
just
nice to
talking.
have you here, and it's good to have people from the same area that I live at, and especially when we are both friends of Johnny Cirucci and
Yeah.
spreading this good information, good research.
And we've been
So
talking about
yeah,
going to the protests together. We haven't done it yet, but we will.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, on the next one, if all goes as planned.
Yes.
So yeah, what can you tell me about Canada? I've heard that Canada is a corporation. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so of course, everyone who lives in Canada will probably know the term or have heard of the term Commonwealth, right? And
Yeah,
Crown land, all these types of terms, right? And of
yeah,
course, who is on our dollar bill? The Queen. So, what does this have to do with the Commonwealth? Well, if you go look at the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the EDGAR, it says the Commonwealth of Canada is registered to the United States Federal Reserve via the United States Securities and Exchange Commission, USSEC. And for good reason. It's linked to the city of London, which is the ancient city of Londinium of Rome. So the Commonwealth of Canada is a company, is a foreign account of the Roman Empire, and such registration information is in the public domain. So they don't really hide anything. That's how clever the deception has been. It's your mind that has been programmed to not believe the truth. From TV, your phone, movies, music. Yeah,
yeah. It's very interesting that they don't hide how these countries are registered corporations,
exactly.
and people don't actually know what that means and how this system is made to treat people as resources. Here's other stuff that you showed me before from this website to see registered companies, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is also a U.S. company.
Yeah, so what we're
Sure.
looking at is a law firm company,
Dun and
Dun and
Bradstreet.
Bradstreet. So if you type in things like town of Whitby, which is outside of Toronto, like 30 minutes north of Toronto, it has corporation of the town of Whitby for this American law firm, this United States law firm. Corporation of the town of Whitby. It has all of its annual revenue. It also, if you type in Durham region, it says Corporation of the Regional Municipality of Durham region. Whitby, Ontario, Canada. Oshawa, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah.
So what is coming up? These are company profiles. So Whitby, Whitby, you type in any of the any Oshawa, Ajax, Pickering, I don't know, Mississauga, anyone you want. Even if you type in Toronto
Here.
police,
Yeah, here it is.
it says Corporation of the City of Toronto. North York, U.S. Municipal Governments. That's what the Corporation of the City of Toronto is. Corporation of the City of Toronto is a U.S. municipal government branch.
Crazy. They just
Toronto,
tied directly here to U.S.
yeah, and it says the Toronto Police is under the U.S. municipal government. So, and then you can look up the financial statements. For instance, the annual revenue for
For the police?
for Whitby, Durham Police Association Incorporated, for Whitby, Ontario, Canada, is 2.33 million for this.
That magic number, 33.
Yeah. And so yeah, if you want to look up any other
places. Yeah.
exactly, if you want to look up any other towns or provinces, you'll see the same thing. Corporations or companies, the same thing. And a corporation is the same word as a congregation or a circle, a circuit, a circus, a church. These are all the same things.
And just to make a short reference to Dog Latin, corporation comes from also corpus, right? Like a dead body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a corporation is a dead
dead entity.
Yeah, exactly. A dead person, right? Or which would mean membership of the underworld, you know, corrupt corporate world of the dead.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that goes into, we could go further into more detail there, but I just wanted to mention how the term corporation ties into to these key words that they like to play around in the law system, in the court system.
Absolutely. I recommend everyone download and read Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. It tells you all about Dog Latin, which is neither real Latin nor real English. It's all Dog Latin is the language of the illiterate. It is the Latin all uppercase text usurped into the English descriptive text, appearing under the grammatical rules of descriptive English text. All uppercase symbolic text without hyphens, and not appearing under the true correct grammatical rules of Latin, and done in order to deceive the illiterate, being the ignorant masses. Quote unquote, ignorance is negligence, right? So it's the hidden text that destroys the dominion of living man over the land, the sky, the sea, and the thing that creep, which is like Genesis 1:26. Dog Latin is the Babylonian language of the vassal, being the third party debtor of the debtor, vassal of the vessel. It is found on the ledger, tombstones, and by you being attached to it renders the presumption of confirmation, quote unquote, sign that you have sinned and you are dead. You are no longer the servant of the God of living man. You have become the servant of the underworld, the gods of the dead, corporation, the servant of the Vatican, the debtor of the debtor, subject to Justinian corpus juris, language of the dead.
Yeah, total slave system.
Like, as for instance, dog tags are all capitals.
Yeah, the military.
You're a dog. What is dog backwards? It's God.
And for people that think that the Magna Carta is going to protect their rights. What can we say about that? How is the Magna Carta viable or not viable?
Well, first of
Who
all,
created this?
absolutely. So, is the Magna Carta England's or is it someone else's? Something else's. So, of course, if everyone knows about the Magna Carta, you'll obviously know about the famous tale of Thomas Becket, right? So, the Pope and Dr. Runcie knelt in the silent prayer at the Palace of the Martyrdom, the spot where St. Thomas A. Becket was murdered in 1170. And the Pope said, quote, "It was a very moving moment to see the Pope and the Archbishop of Canterbury praying on the very spot where the most famous of all archbishops, Thomas A. Becket, had fallen so many centuries ago." So why is that important? Who is Thomas Becket? What does that have to do with the Magna Carta? Well, according to Wikipedia, Henry II of England. Why was Archbishop Thomas Becket murdered? In the tradition of Norman kings, Henry II was keen to dominate the church like the state. At Clarendon Palace on 30th of January 1164, the king set out 16 constitutions aimed at decreasing ecclesiastical interference from Rome, but the newly appointed Archbishop of Canterbury refused to ratify the proposals. Henry was characteristically stubborn, and on the 8th of October 1164, he called the Archbishop Thomas Becket before the Royal Council. However, Becket had fled to France and was under the protection of Henry's rival, Louis VII of France. By 1170, the Pope was considering excommunicating all of Britain, which means to be damned and exiled by the Catholic Church. Only Henry's agreement that Becket could return to England without penalty prevented this fate. So, Thomas A. Becket was murdered in 1170 by 4 of Henry's knights who wanted to do the king a favor. These knights were Knights Templar, a military order of Rome. Just 3 years later, Becket was canonized and received as a martyr against secular interference in God's church, the Catholic Church. Pope Alexander III had declared Thomas Becket a saint. Plantagenet historian John Harvey believes it was yet another failure in Henry's religious policy, an arena which he seemed to lack adequate subtlety, and politically Henry had to sign the Compromise of Avranches, which removed from the secular courts almost all jurisdiction over the clergy. The Compromise of Avranches in 1172 marked the reconciliation of Henry II of England with the Catholic Church after the murder in 1170 of Thomas Becket. Henry was purged of any guilt in Becket's murder, but he agreed that the secular courts had no jurisdiction over the clergy, with the exception of high treason, highway robbery, and arson. So it was blackmail. The murder had far-reaching consequences for England, but the immediate result was that Henry II had to make peace with the church. He did this 4 years later by performing penance at Canterbury Cathedral. He was beaten by 80 monks, Catholic monks, while wearing sackcloth and ashes, and spent the night in vigil at St. Thomas Becket's tomb. The Catholic Church had wasted no time and had canonized Becket in 1173. He also had to promise to raise money for the Crusades and to either mount a crusade or make a pilgrimage. He did neither. There was not enough to do at home. And you can find that in Reading Revolution's Magna Carta Index. And
so this is all before the Magna Carta came into being, right?
Absolutely. And this is why King John's concession of England and Ireland to the Pope. So this is from Britannia.com and /history/docs/John Con. It says, in the matter of the election of and installation of Stephen Langton as Archbishop of Canterbury, King John, in the words of Pope Innocent III, had by quote-unquote impious persecution tried to quote-unquote enslave the entire English church. As a result, the Pope laid on England an interdict, 1208-14, a sort of religious quote-unquote strike, wherein no religious service be performed for anyone guilty or innocent. When this didn't work, the king himself was excommunicated. Caving in under that pressure, John wrote a letter of concession to the Pope, hoping to have the interdict and the excommunication lifted in 1213. John's concession, which in effect made England a fiefdom of Rome, worked like a charm. The satisfied Pope lifted the yoke he had hung on the people of England and their king.
Always the kings giving their liberties to the Pope, to the Vatican.
Yep.
They were the one controlling all these kingdoms and empires, and telling them what were the borders of their empires, and how they would make treaties with each other, right?
Yes. And so as you see the picture, the crown resigned to the Pope's legate by King John in 1213 from History of England. The crown is on the ground. This is the signing. This is during the signing of the Magna Carta. The King of England bows to the Pope's legate. Not even the Pope, just the Pope's messenger. Put it on the ground. And he says, "Yes, sir." So, why? Concession of England to the Pope, 1213. John, by the grace of God, King of England, Lord of Ireland, Duke of Normandy and Aquitaine, Count of Anjou, to all the faithful of Christ who shall look upon this present charter greeting, we wish it to be known to all of you through this, our charter, furnished with our seal, that inasmuch as we had offended in many ways God and our mother, the Holy Church, and in consequence are known to have very much needed the divine mercy and cannot offer any worthy thing for making due satisfaction to God and to the church unless we humiliate ourselves and our kingdoms. That's all of the crown and the crown land and the commonwealth. We wishing to humiliate ourselves for him who humiliated himself for us unto death, the grace of the Holy Spirit inspiring, not induced by force or compelled by fear, but of our own good and spontaneous will and by the common counsel of our barons. You can find this quote on the Jesuit University of Fordham website. And so it goes on to say, do offer and freely concede to God and his holy apostles Peter and Paul, and to our mother, the Holy Roman Church, and to our Lord Pope Innocent, and to his Catholic successors, the whole kingdom of England and the whole kingdom of Ireland, with all their rights and appurtenances, for the remission of our own sins and of those of our whole race, as well for the living as for the dead, and now receiving and holding them, as it were, a vassal from God and the Roman Church, in the presence of that prudent man Pandulph, subdeacon, and of the household of the Lord Pope, we perform and swear fealty for them to him, our aforesaid Lord Pope Innocent, and his Catholic successors, and the Roman Church. All his Catholic successors, from him to now.
And this is like an historical legal document, right?
Yes. This is the Magna Carta. And it goes on to say, according to form appended, and in the presence of the Lord Pope, if we shall be able to come before him, we shall be liege homage to him, binding our successors. That's all the kings of England, all the prime ministers, and our heirs, by our wife forever, in similar manner to perform fealty and show homage to him who shall be chief pontiff at that time, who is Pope Francis, a Jesuit priest at this present time. And that's from the Jesuit Fordham University in New York.
But the prime ministers here in Canada,
yes,
they swear allegiance to the Queen, right? To the crown.
Who swears allegiance to the Magna Carta, which is a document that hands all of the Commonwealth of England and the crown
So in that
over to the Roman bishop.
exactly, so the Queen is also subservient to the Vatican.
That's right. And we can get into the 3 crowns.
Yeah, go ahead.
So how does that affect us to this day? How does that affect Canada? So some of the land you see in Ontario or Alberta or any other province, some of it is crown land, right? And you can like camp on it. You can camp on crown land. And so the first crown is that of the crown land. But it was Pope Boniface the Eighth who was the first leader in history to create the concept of a quote-unquote trust. But the first quote-unquote testamentary trust through a deed and will creating a quote-unquote deceased estate was created by Pope Nicholas V in 1455 through the papal bull, quote-unquote Romanus Pontifex, end quote, which is a papal bull is the highest legal document the Roman bishop, the Pope, the Pontifex Maximus can give or write, which and it is to be quote unquote forever, and no other papal bull after it can rewrite it. That's what they claim. So this is only one of 3 papal bulls to include the line with the incipit, quote, for a perpetual remembrance. Okay? End quote. This bull had the effect of conveying the right of use of the land as quote unquote real property from the quote unquote express trust, which is Latin unum sanctum, to the control of the pontiff, the pope, and his successors in perpetuity, forever, eternity. Hence, all land in Canada is claimed as crown land. This first crown is represented by the first Suesti Qui Vi Trust. Created when a child is born, it deprives us of all beneficial entitlements and rights on the land.
So when they wrote crown land, the crown, it doesn't mean the Kingdom of England or the Queen. It means the Vatican.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
And you know, city, the name city in every case signifies the location of a bishop's see, like S-E-E, like the Holy See. The seat of his authority from the Latin sedes, S-E-D-E-S, and the territory under his supervision. No place in England was called a city unless governed by a bishop, as in the see of or city of Canterbury, city or city of New York, city or city of London or Bath and Wales or Bristol and Salisbury, etc. With the Philadelphia see or city, you know, the Washington city or see. Okay, so city means control of Rome, the bishop that presides over it.
Every little topic that we can dig deeper, do more in-depth research, it always ties into the Vatican. It's crazy, and it sounds crazy to anyone that doesn't do the research or never heard about this. You know, it just sounds like you're just against the Catholic Church, but this is historical evidence.
Yeah, and you know, some people would say, "Oh, but you know, the Magna Carta has been amended. It's been a little bit rewritten in the last 500 years. It's changed. It's not totally under the control of the Pope anymore." But continuing on what I said about it's what it says in the Magna Carta, it says, "And to the Roman Church without demur, as a sign, moreover, of this our own, we will and establish perpetual obligation and concession we will establish that from the proper and special revenues of our aforesaid kingdoms, for all the service and customs which we ought to render for them, saving in all things the penny of St. Peter, the Roman Church shall receive yearly 1,000 marks sterling, namely at the feast of St. Michael, 500 marks, and at Easter, 500 marks, 700. Namely for the kingdom of England, and 300 for the kingdom of Ireland, saving to us and to our heirs our rights, liberties, and regalia, all of which things, as they have been described above, we wish to have perpetually valid and firm, and we bind ourselves and our successors not to act counter to them. And if we, or any one of our successors, shall presume to attempt this, whoever he be, unless being duly warned he come to his kingdom and his senses, he shall lose his right to the kingdom. And this charter of our obligation and concession shall always remain firm. Period. So, with the crown comes the second crown. First crown being the crown land, the second crown of the Commonwealth. So the second crown was created in 1481 with the papal bull Aeterni Regis, meaning eternal crown, by Pope Sixtus IV, being the only being the second of only 3 papal bulls as deeds of testamentary trust. This papal bull was created to establish the crown of Aragon in Spain, later known as the crown of Spain, and is the highest sovereign and highest steward of all Roman slaves, subject to the rule of the Roman pontiff. Spain lost the crown, Holy Roman Empire, protector of the temporal power of the papacy, in 1604, when it was granted to King James I of England by Pope Paul V, after the successful passage of the quote-unquote Union of Crowns, or Commonwealth, in 1605, by the blown cover as cover, Jesuit-created gunpowder plot to blow up the Parliament of England in London. The crown was finally lost by England to the great Jesuit crusader knight Napoleon in 1814, when it was given to Jesuit superior general Lorenzo Ricci, founding of New Atlantis, the USA. And why New Atlantis? Because in Francis Bacon, who was director of the Virginia Company in England, which helped set up the 13 colonies in the United States, he wrote a book called Novus Atlantis, New Atlantis, saying America would be the springboard for the New World Order. And so when Napoleon gave it over in 1814, it remains this way to this day, overseen and financed by the Commonwealth in the See of London through the invisible college's 101 livery companies or corporations. The Invisible College was set up by the Rosicrucians in the First 30 Years' War, and it's known as the Royal Society. The Rosicrucians were created by the Jesuits. The second crown is represented by the second Suesti Qui Vitrast, created when a child is born, and by the sale of the birth certificate as a bond to the private central bank of the nation, depriving us of ownership of our flesh and condemning us to perpetual servitude as a Roman person or slave.
How does the Commonwealth tie into common law?
Yeah, so
because people are trying to use common law like it's the one weapon against the authority of the government here and in the US also.
Well, everything remains in the language. So common law is pretty uncommon. Of course, everything that we've said is you have contained on your identifications. You know, your license, your health identification, your ID, mail, etc. When you receive it, when you look at it, what do you see? It's all capitals. Capitals. What is a capital? A capital is one of the mountains of Rome. There's 7 hills and mountains in Rome. This is prophesied in the book of Revelation, chapter 17. The whore of Babylon, who rides and sits on the 7 hills of the beast, which is the Vatican City. So, capitals, capital punishment, words like this. Everything is words that can be used against you in their courts, in their inquisitorial courts, such as like admiralty law, words, the Holy See. Think of like an ocean, right? The birth certificate. Think of like birth as in BERTH. Citizenship. 14th Amendment citizen. And then we're talking about the United States, 14th Amendment. They also have Commonwealth and common law. Because the 14th Amendment reversed the Bill of Rights, which made the Declaration of Independence null and void, creating the Republic of America to be an empire of America during the Civil War, created and controlled by the Jesuit order. And of course, leadership, withdraw currency, liquid assets, liquidation. When you kill off your corporation or your dead person, it no longer exists. Your account has been frozen. Bail, like a bailing out water. Bankruptcy, bar examination. Seal, C with SEESEAL. Court. What is a court? It's a dock harbor. Survivorship, cash flow, liquidization, floating. I have my head above water. Apprenticeship. Presidency. Bail bond, bankruptcy law, disembarment. Sidebar, your worship, floating your company, deposit, bank loan, sharks, frozen assets, bank balance, bailiff, bar, discharge, ambassadorship, authorship, battleship, censorship, companionship, craftsmanship, draftsmanship, fellowship, friendship, hardship, horsemanship, internship, membership, partnership, relationship.
It's all a language connecting back to this slave system that we think it's working for us, this law system.
Yes.
But admiralty law is also called maritime law, right? They're not two different things.
They're both two sides of the same coin. But it's not about who controls the admiralty or maritime law. It's about who made the coin and who owns the coin that these two sides are on. So, and that would be the third crown of the ecclesiastical see. And the third crown was created in 1537 by Jesuit order establisher Pope Paul III, Alessandro Farnese, through the papal bull, quote-unquote, convocation. It was meant to open the Jesuit Council of Trent, or Trident, because the Roman god of the sea, Poseidon, holds the trident. It is the third and final testamentary deed and will of a testamentary trust set up for the claiming of all, quote, lost souls, end quote, lost to the sea, the Holy See. The Venetians, who, Venice, floats on top of the sea because they are above the people, because the sea is the souls of people, of mankind, according to the Roman Catholic Church. The Venetians, who were behind the establishment of the Jesuit order, insisted in the creation of the Third Suesti Quivi Act of 1540 to use this papal bull as the basis of ecclesiastical authority of King Henry VII. This crown was secretly granted to the ancient Roman see or city of London, Londinium, England, in the collection of quote-unquote reaping of lost souls. The crown was lost in 1816 to the deliberate bankruptcy of England during the Jesuit-created Napoleonic Wars to take full control of the temporal power of the papacy by the Jesuits, and was created to the quote-unquote temple bar, which became known as the Crown Bar, or simply the Crown. The bar associations have since been responsible for administering the quote-unquote reaping of the souls of the lost and damned, including the registration and collection of baptismal certificates representing the souls collected by the Vatican and stored in its vaults. This third crown is represented by the third Suesti Qui Vi Trust, created when a child is baptized, which according to the Catholic Church is by inoculation and injection when the baby is born in the hospital. Hospitals, of course, were created by the Knights Hospitaller, the Roman Catholic military order, now known today as the Knights of Malta.
Sorry, you said that they are baptized by injection?
Yeah. A Roman Catholic baptismal conversion, according to the Jesuits in the 1730s in Brazil and in China, was considered done by through inoculation. And you can find this in their own annals of the propagation of the Catholic faith. And
that's crazy. I never heard that. That's actually tying vaccination to the Jesuits.
Well, of course, the poison needle, virus being Latin for poison, the poison needle or the virus needle was invented by Jesuit priest Father Francis Xavier de Entrecoles in the 1700s. And so this third crown is represented by the third Suesti Qui Vi Trust, created when a child is baptized or converted. It is the parent's grant of the baptismal certificate, title to the soul to the Roman Catholic Church or quote-unquote registrar. Thus, without legal title over one's own soul, we will be denied legal standing and will be treated as things, cargo without souls, upon which the bar is now legally able to enforce Jesuit-controlled Roman Catholic Venetian maritime law. How do we know this is even real, though? How do we know this is actually working? When you go into a courtroom and you see the flags, what is on the left side of the flag? A yellow strip. The yellow strip represents the yellow of the Vatican flag. This represents the maritime law, the Venetian Admiralty maritime law. And of course, the Postmaster General of every country's cities or seas is responsible for the universal trading of your soul through the country's postal service. This is why your mail, you see your name, your sea name, your sailor name on the license, health ID, mail, etc. is D-based Latin, unhyphenated capitals, neither real English nor real Latin. And it is not you. It is but an avatar corpse in a digital electromagnetic sea in today's standards, which is the Babylonian, and Babylon is the fourth and final beast, or Rome is the fourth and final beast of Babylon, universal, which is English or Catholic. Catholic is the Latin word for universal. And then magic. Latin Vatic, V-A-T-I-C in Latin is magic. And anus in Latin or circuit in Latin is anus. So Roman Catholic Vaticanus is the Babylonian Universal Magic Circuit, which is the corporation of the dead. Heinrich von Steuben, German Postmaster General who founded the first General Postal Union, now the United States Nations Universal Postal Union, was a knight of the Jesuit-controlled Roman Catholic Sovereign Military Order of Malta. This Order of Malta was taken over publicly in 1818 by the Jesuits. So, and I see you got the Roman fasces up. And of course,
yeah, they always use these Roman symbols.
That's right.
Or court.
It is the ancient emblem of Roman legal authority. So, of course, the god of the seal, which has C in it, the god of the seal wields the fasces to sweep the earth clean of the last traces of the Roman Catholic quote-unquote original sin. So what is an insinuar? If you look in Black's Law Dictionary, an insinuar. Read it slowly in legal terms. The insinuar. In sin you are. You are in sin. On the right hand, the emblem of Roman totalitarianism is the fasces. Okay? The fasces is fascism. To fascit, to fascize, to facilitize. And it represents a Roman device. The fasces is a Roman device. Actually originating with the ancient Etruscans of Rome, whose earliest Romans derived their religious jurisprudence nearly 3,000 years ago. It's an axe head whose handle is a bundle of rods tightly strapped together by a red sinew. It symbolizes the ordering of priestly functions into a single, infallible sovereign and autocrat who could require life and limb of his subjects if the fasces is entwined with a laurel wreath, like a pair on the house wall of the House of Commons, the chamber of the House of Representatives in Congress, where Jesuit Pope Francis got a standing ovation. The Romans called this infallible, sovereign, Caesarian military power the Pontifex Maximus, which means, in English, supreme bridge builder. That's why all the bridges and waterways in the United States of America, for instance, are owned by the Marine Corps, because the first Marine Water Corps was invented by the first few Jesuits in 1528 in Spain, contracted by the Venetians to create the first secret police called the Legionari. The Pope was so pleased by it that the Doge of Venice sent them to Rome in 1537 to be created as the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuit order, for the reconstructing of the temporal power lost during the Reformation, which has been reestablished in the Second 30 Years' War, which is 1914 to 45, reestablishing the temporal power of the papacy. And you can see this temporal power of the papacy restored in the UNIDROIT, which is the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law, established in 1926 as a part of the League of Nations. And of course, the League of Nations was signed in Rome. And of course, the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law is located in the Villa Aldobrandini. Aldobrandini being one of the ancient papal black nobility dynasties, very powerful. The Rothschilds married into this family. That's how much more powerful they are than them. And then, of course, it borders the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas to the south. And it was Thomas Aquinas who said at the Second Lantern Council in his famous book, Summa Theologica, that all property, and as in Commonwealth and Crown land, is to be controlled, governed by the pontiff and not by the people. And he would be later known as the father of Ultramontanism, which is Latin for beyond the Alps. That is to say, Rome. Ultramontanism later became known as fascism. And of course, Canada signed into the International Institute for the Unification of Private Law in 1968 under Pierre Trudeau, who Kathy O'Brien in Transformation America said was a Jesuit priest. And going back to who really governs Canada, appointed by the Queen, is the Governor General of Canada, which is Julie Payette. And Julie Payette has honorary degrees at 2 Catholic universities, one of being a Jesuit university, which is Concordia University in Montreal, Canada. And she is a Knight of the Roman Catholic Military Order of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta.
She's a Knight of Malta.
Yes. You can find this on her Wikipedia page, on her
Crazy.
Vatipedia page, as I like to say.
It's crazy that they don't even hide that. The Governor General is a Knight of Malta.
That's right. And, you know, these
The
knights,
Queen
these Catholic knighthoods,
Yeah.
why does it even matter? One of the most stunning victories of the Jesuit Superior General, Francis Borgia, was in securing under Pope Gregory the 13th in 1572 the rights of the Jesuits to deal in commerce and banking, a right that had not been granted to any religious order of the Catholic Church since the Knights Templars 400 years earlier.
Yeah.
And so the United Nations Universal Postal Union, created by a Knight of Malta, Dietrich von Steven. And just to go back to some other thing, the Banco. The Templars invented the term Banco. That's where you put your money on the table.
Yeah, but just to mention that also, USA is also incorporated, and it's actually a parent company of Canada, right?
That's right. So
everything
everything is a company or corporation under the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Which is owned and controlled by the See of London.
Which is one of the 3 city-states.
Yeah, they are the financial backers of the sword arm of Rome, being the new Holy Roman Empire, United States of America.
So U.S. is, or Washington is the military organization. London is a financial, and Vatican is the clerical, or what would you call it?
They are the supreme holders of the succession of the Empire of Babylon. So the Caesars never went away. They just became the popes. You can actually see a picture of Caesar Constantine the Great kneeling on the ground and giving his crown to the Pope. The painting of it from 338 AD, I believe.
Oh, let's get that. I want to show that. If you can find that. I don't have it here. But...
Right here. You might have to zoom in, though. There you go.
Copy link.
Press Control. Yeah, there you go. You got it. So on the right, you see Constantine the Great, the Roman Emperor of the world. And of course, Webster's 1928 dictionary, the first Webster's dictionary, defines the world as the Roman Empire. The next edition that came out in 1836 removed this definition. And you can find this on the internet to this day. So he's given it over to the Pope, which means he's given over all of Roman Empire, all of the world, all of Babylon to the Pope, the Pontifex Maximus. The military, financial, Commonwealth, the crown.
So that's when
The
officially
souls.
the empire became the Holy Roman Empire.
You could say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, the Holy Roman Empire is the protectors or defenders of the papacy, the papacy, the papal see.
Hmm.
And as I said, the Jesuits destroyed the Holy Roman Empire, which was like in Germany, and gave it over to France to be given over to America, financed by London, which are the merchants of Rome, you could say. Previous merchants of Rome would have been the Venetians. And you can actually find the Stuart dynasty of England, which were devout Roman Catholics, helped set up Jesuit created Freemasonry in the Jesuit College of Claremont and the Jesuit College de Saint Germain-en-Laye, where actually the Stuarts are actually the Roman, Italian, Venetian, Pallavinici dynasty, which go all the way back to the founding of Rome. And on their Pallavinici Plaza in Rome, you can see the Jesuit monogram in the middle of their coat of arms on the marble floor. And these are the kings of England.
Good stuff, man. Thank you for sharing all this information. I hope this opens some eyes of people that are waking up and consider themselves already awoken and are fighting for their rights. To look at the historical facts that the Magna Carta and the common law are not really made by the people, and to protect the people is just a way of another layer of deception.
Absolutely. Our language exists under a different grammatical rule, the official language of foreign Rome. Ancient Latin being illustrative text. English is descriptive text. Mixing the two languages is a fraud and can only be agreed upon. That can only be agreed upon. Such writings have no lawful or grammatical ability to correspond with each other, and by agreeing to any document that contains the all uppercase text renders you as a trustee of the fraud, the world debtor, the Vatican. You become the quote-unquote foreign citizen of Rome, trustee slave of the world. Is that you on your driver license or passport? Is that you on your mail?
Exactly.
And I'd just like to say thank you for having me on the show, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. And I think we're going to be making a few more videos like this, because this information is very valuable, and people need to know what's actually behind all this deception, all this power, if they really want to get over it, get past it, or gain their freedoms that they never had. We were all born into this system, and that's one of the things that it shows in the movies, like the Matrix trilogy movies. It really describes how we are born into the system.
Absolutely. And I'll just say one more thing just to tie it into the present.
Yeah.
Justin Trudeau, son of Pierre Trudeau, or many people like to say Justin Castro. Pierre Trudeau, he was Jesuit educated at the Jesuit College of Jean de Brébeuf in Quebec, and so is Justin Trudeau. They're both Jesuit educated.
Yeah,
and
so they're pushing forward the agenda.
absolutely, and of course, Pierre Trudeau rewrote the our Constitution.
Yeah, he
1980.
That this was a de facto country.
Yeah.
And, so that was another deception, right? That he
all tied into
amended.
the same thing.
Yeah.
And, of course, Trump is Jesuit educated at Fordham University. And a lot of people like to talk about QAnon. I'm sure you've heard.
Oh, for sure.
If you go on the Catholic Encyclopedia, which is the official organ of the history of Catholic history, you can find a document called The Sayings of Jesus. It's called the Logia. And it talks about a mysterious document called quote unquote Q.
Just the letter Q?
Yep. To the Catholic Church, the letter Q represents the Logia, sayings from divine origin. But the term Logia, Greek, is used variously in ancient writings and modern scholarship in reference to communications of divine origin. In pagan usage, logion was used interchangeably with kresmos and other such terms in reference to oracles, which are the pronouncements of the gods of the dead obtained through divination, black magic. How do you spell Kabbalah? With a Q. And I will link that for you if you want.
Yeah, for sure. That's all very relevant information.
So, just ask yourself this. It's just a question. I'm not assuming anything. Are you following who you think you're following? Or are you following Rome?
All right. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me on again. And if anyone wants to check out my work, my YouTube handle is ENGOODZ. Everywhere: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
Goodz. Yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk also in other talk shows with Johnny Cirucci and the rest of the team. We can probably go more in depth in the situation that we're on now.
Absolutely. Can't wait for it. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, I think we can end it there.